We here because we love oppressed people, and in this case, it's Palestinians.
Yes.
It could be any oppressed people. It could be Jews in Germany. Yes. It could be landless workers in Brazil.
Yes.
It could be brothers and sisters in Haiti. But we live in an American empire that has such unbelievable spiritual decay and moral deterioration, they think they can reproduce themselves with a level of hypocrisy and mendacity and criminality and get away with it. And we're simply here to say, chickens come home to roost. You're going to reap what you sow. Sooner or later, your lies and your crimes will be revealed and disclosed. Because truth crushed to earth will rise again, and truth is bigger than all of us, but it has something to do with the suffering of those who find themselves in plights and predicaments that the great Frantz Fanon called the wretched of the earth, and we are in solidarity with them.
Yes. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got some bad news for Kamala Harris when it comes to third parties, because it seems as if the third party candidates are actively working against Kamala Harris, okay? The third party candidates don't like Kamala Harris, and is at the point now where the election could come down to these third party candidates and whether or not they choose to stay in the race, okay? Because Kamala is facing some issues with that, particularly from the left. You have Jill Stein and Cornel West, who are technically in the presidential race, and they're really competing against Kamala because they're taking votes away from her left, mainly when it comes to Kamala not doing enough when it comes to the Israel and Palestine issue. Okay, so you have Cornel West, as you guys saw at the beginning of this video, staging abandoned Kamala protests against her, okay, because of her positions. And ultimately, that could hurt Kamala in the election because some of these states, like, for example, Michigan or Wisconsin, it's going to come down to the margins, right? And if she is losing votes to these third-party candidates on the left or the uncommitted vote, then that could be the difference between winning and losing. It basically was the difference between Trump and Hillary in 2016. Jill Stein being in a race, taking away votes from Hillary in states like Michigan. That could happen again in 2024, okay? So that is something that Kamala should be extremely concerned about. She also should be concerned about the bombshell news that has come out that RFK is considering dropping out of the race and endorsing Trump. Now, this comes as there has been speculations and rumors that RFK is thinking about doing this. He's basically shopping around his endorsement. Now, he reportedly reached out to Kamala Harris to see, okay, is there anything that we can do to work together? And Kamala Harris basically told him, boy, bye, right? We don't care about your endorsement. We don't need your help. We don't want anything to do with you. He also spoke with Trump as well, too. And the Trump campaign was much more open to having the conversation with RFK about potentially coming on board in exchange for him dropping out and endorsing Trump. Maybe RFK will have more influence. This was something that the Kamala campaign did not consider at all. In fact, there was even a video that came out of RFK and Trump having a conversation after the failed assassination attempt on President Trump, in which, you know, it seems as if Trump and RFK have a pretty decent relationship.
Radically, I've seen it too many times. And then you hear that it doesn't have an impact, right? But you and I talked about that a long time ago. And anyway, I would love you to do stuff, and I think it'll be so good for you and so big for you, and we're gonna win. We're gonna win. You know, we're way ahead of the guy.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Okay, so that clip has sparked a whole lot of speculation about what RFK is going to do. It sounds to me like Trump and RFK are very friendly, that Trump is open to having somebody like RFK come on board and to do some work with the administration. And I think at this point, RFK is more concerned about influence. I also think that low-key he wants revenge on the Democrat Party for essentially rigging the primaries against them. And this is something that has essentially been confirmed by RFK's vice presidential running mate, Nicole Shanahan, who spoke in a podcast where she admitted that, yeah, we're thinking about dropping out and endorsing Trump because we really don't like Kamala. We really don't want to allow her to win because at this point, it seems as if RFK is taking away more votes from Trump than she is from Kamala Harris, which was not true when Joe Biden was in the race. But now it has basically become true now that Kamala is in the race. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But first, I want to go ahead and play this clip of Nicole Shanahan explaining why they're thinking about dropping out of the race and endorsing Trump. Take a look.
But as long as we remain on the ballots, we could win. The question is, is the risk of a Harris-Walz presidency worth us staying in? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves right now is, do we trust Trump and in his personal sincerity to really do the right thing for our country and chronic disease, balance the budget, end these forever wars? Is he somebody that's going to continue to invite people like Bobby and I into the conversation? Or is he going to fall victim again to the things he fell victim to in his first administration? So we're weighting it all. It's not an easy calculation. We want what's best for this country first and foremost, and it is, it's an interesting place to be. I won't lie. Like you can't make this stuff up.
As somebody who understands that we're connected to something bigger, that spirituality and politics are intertwined, what does your gut tell you about how this is going to play out?
This election is so important, but so is the 2026 governor race in California. And my gut tells me that sometimes you need to go to the source of where all of this stuff is coming from. It's coming from right here in California. It's coming from the influence Silicon Valley and Hollywood has had on the Democratic Party. It comes from this idea that you can manipulate people with lies to get their votes. It comes from this lack of accountability that just seems to continue to spiral. And I think that what my gut tells me right now is that we just have to keep being honest. I got to just keep being honest. I got to keep focusing on what matters the most outside of party lines. I need to focus on a vision that goes beyond November. And if that means that we stay in, and, there's benefits to staying in. If we get over 5% of the vote, we actually establish ourselves as a party. 71% of Americans want a strong third party with a real shot at winning. There's even public funds available if we get over 5% of the vote. So we could get, I think it's like $13.5 million in public funds to keep the party going. And that's, that's worth something. That means that we can position for a real third party election in 2028 where we don't have to go around and spend tens of millions of dollars on ballot access, which means that we can spend all of that time and money campaigning. So, there's two options that we're looking at, and one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Walz presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision. Not easy.
Clearly.
Yeah, not an easy decision.
No, I think the choice is clear, right? Because I think at this point, Kennedy staying in the race is doing nothing but allowing Democrats to win. Check out these polls here, okay? This is kind of crazy to look at. Before Biden dropped out of the race, the polls of Biden versus Trump versus RFK showed RFK at 8.7%. And at times, this guy was pulling 16% of the vote. 16%. But before Joe Biden got out, he was at 8.7%. Okay? Now look what happens when Joe Biden gets out. Now this poll right here is of Harris versus Trump versus RFK Jr. Before Joe Biden dropped out, RFK was at 5.6%. If you would poll RFK versus Trump versus Kamala Harris. As soon as Kamala Harris gets in and Joe Biden drops out, well, what happens? Kennedy support starts to fall. Okay, he went from 5.6% when polling versus Harris and Trump, 8%, 8.7% when polling versus Trump and Biden, to now he's all the way down at 3.2%, which suggests that a vast majority of his support that he had was coming from Democrats. It was Democrats that were sitting out saying that, hey, I don't want Biden, right? I don't like Biden. And when they switch out Biden for Kamala, it seems as if about 5 of those percentage points went to Kamala Harris, right? That's what happened, okay? Which, again, is terrible for Kennedy because if he's sitting at 3.2%, that means that the chances of them having a legitimate third party is pretty slim. And I'm not just saying this because I want RFK to drop out so that the rest of his votes go to Trump and that he endorses Trump and that helps Trump win. That's not why I'm saying that, okay? I'm actually saying this because I do believe that we should break the duopoly on politics that we currently have with the Democrats and the Republicans, okay? Because the Democrats and Republicans present the false illusion of choice, at the very least before Trump came along, that is, okay? Trump has kind of broken that a little bit, but the system is still kind of the same, okay? The problem is that when you introduce a third party, it does not properly represent how America is actually divided politically in order to be viable. Okay, the only thing that a third party really is going to do is that they're going to take away votes from one major party while allowing the other party to win. But in the long term, they're not really building anything, okay? Because America actually really needs 4 strong parties, right? That's actually what America needs because that is how America is divided, okay? You have the far left, the progressive left, the establishment Democrats, the establishment Republicans, and then you have MAGA, okay? That is how America is divided right now. And if we had a system, ideally, that has 4 parties that represent how America is currently divided, then you're going to have a system that is more competitive and people will feel like their viewpoints are properly represented, okay? Because a lot of people don't feel like Democrats or Republicans really represent them, okay? However, again, the problem is that the only way this can happen is if both parties decide to effectively split up. Okay, Republicans say, hey, we're splitting from MAGA, and Democrats say, hey, we're splitting from the far left. Again, the issue is that the Democrats are moving the country so far left that Republicans can't afford to split up, right? MAGA and the establishment Republicans, for as much as I feel like they definitely want to split up, they can't afford to split up, right? They can't afford to because Democrats are a far left party. They are a far left party at this point. They've dragged the center left Democrats all the way to the left, okay? And the center left Democrats are so Trump deranged that they don't necessarily want to go to the right. And they would rather get on board with basically communism, which is what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz represent. This is what they're pushing. They'd rather get on board with that than Trump. I mean, it really blows my mind, but that's where we're at in the current state of politics. So right now, I'm not sure it's the time for a third party. Okay, although people may feel that way when it comes time to vote, it's not like they're really voting that way. They're not, okay? Because ideally what would happen if people actually really had an appetite for a third party, like a lot of people claim, is that, well, you would have the center left and the center right. They would have their, I don't know, third party candidate. And this is something that they were talking about doing the primaries, right? No labels, Joe Manchin. All these people were coming out here talking about it, but they never did it because there's not a real appetite for it, right? People can complain about the 2-party system all they want, but unless people are willing to actually break off from Democrats and Republicans in a real way, it's just not going to happen. So RFK staying in the race right now, if he's talking about building a third party in the long term, it looks like he's probably not going to be able to do so because he doesn't have the support for it. All it took was for Joe Biden to drop out, and now all of a sudden the people that would have voted Democrat but didn't do so because Joe Biden was the candidate, those people abandoned Kennedy just like that, right? At a snap. They abandoned him and went to Kamala. So clearly his support wasn't because people like him, okay, or they really support him like that. It was because, well, we just don't like Joe, okay? So now the people that are left supporting RFK, most of them are probably people that will vote for Trump. That's where we're at. And if you know what's at stake, you know that we cannot allow a Kamala Harris, Tim Walz administration to get into office. If you know this, which apparently RFK does know this, and you're most concerned about influence in the direction of the country, you're going to be most influential by working with Trump more so than trying to create some third party that probably is not going to have any real viability in the future, right? You're just going to be a spoiler party, and people are going to be pissed off at you for ruining their candidates' chances of winning, okay? This is why people don't like the Green Party, and this is why a lot of people also don't like the Libertarian Party, because they're seen as just third-party spoiler, parties who, hey, I can argue that libertarians represent a significant portion of people in this country, but when it comes time to vote, a lot of those people end up just voting Republican. So until these things change, which they won't change unless both parties at the same time decide that, hey, we're going to split, or the American people decide that, hey, you know what, we should split the parties up, as in progressives say, no, we're only going to vote for a progressive third party, and MAGA says, no, we're going to vote for a MAGA third party or whatever. It's just not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen. I'm just saying that I just don't see it happening in the way that it should happen, which is for both parties to split at the same time, okay? So with that being said, if RFK is truly concerned about impact, then his best bet is working with the Trump administration. I don't know if Trump is officially asked RFK to join the administration. However, with the polls, okay, being the way they are right now, Kamala Harris gaining momentum, and who knows, maybe Trump's polls are different. I personally believe that the internal polls for both campaigns probably are not as rigged as these polls that we're seeing in public. But regardless, if Trump feels like, okay, we need this guy's support, right? We need him on the team in order to win. He may just have to say, hey, we'll let you be a part of my team, which I think is a good thing. I think RFK being a part of the conversation is a good thing. And then you throw in people like Vivek Ramaswamy, JD Vance, clearly super smart, super intelligent. You have Elon Musk. These are the people that I would love to see Trump surround himself with. And that's what's happening, right? All of these people represent the future of where the right, okay, the conservative movement, MAGA, is headed. Okay, so it's not just about Trump. People are obsessed with, Trump, he might make the same mistakes he made when he first ran for president in 2016 and, have his administration be surrounded by a bunch of these guys that are swamp creatures and stuff like that, which, that did happen. Okay, and that's part of the reason why Trump didn't really drain the swamp as much as he could have, is because he did not surround himself with the right people. However, you got to understand, this is his first time being in a government position, okay, being president of the United States, and there's a massive learning curve. And I think that Trump has learned. And I think one of the signs that Trump has learned is that he's surrounded himself with people like, for example, RFK, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy. I think that is a good sign that hopefully he's going in the right direction, that he has some people around him pulling him in the right direction, right? And that's really the most that you can hope for. Now, that doesn't mean that every hire is going to be MAGA. It's not possible. I'm not sure if there are enough individuals where you could have a whole administration full of MAGA. So, he may have to offer Nikki Haley some type of cabinet position. And, people are going to be pissed off about it, but that's just kind of how it goes, okay? Regardless, the point is that we have to win, and then we have to keep pushing into the future to make our movement stronger. Because when Trump leaves, whether that be him losing this election, because if he loses, I'm not entirely sure how he runs again in 2028, okay? Because Democrats are basically going to try to throw him in jail. And I think he'll be way too old at that point to be running again for as much energy as Trump has. I just don't know if he can do it running as an 84, 85-year-old man. I just don't see it happening again. But if he wins, then he's not up for re-election anymore. So either way, this is basically it. However, there will be a future after Trump. The question is, what would that future be? If Trump loses, the Republicans are going to try to take the party back to George Bush, right? They're going to try to make Nikki Haley the leader of the party. That's what they're going to do. So it's important for Trump to win, not because Trump is going to do everything that MAGA wants in his next term, but because it's going to signal that, okay, this is direction that we can take the party in, because this is what the country agrees with. This is what the country wants. And then it's about what comes after Trump. Because whoever comes after Trump as the leader of MAGA, hopefully that person is a better and more refined version of Trump that can really get the masses on board with the America First movement, right? That is what I'm hoping for, and that is what people should hope for. People should understand that you're not going to get it all in one go. It's about winning, building on those wins, and continuing to take the country in the right direction, right? And if RFK wants to be a part of that, clearly there's room for him in the America First movement if he wants to be a part of it, but there's not room for him in the far left movement, right? There's no room for him with Kamala Harris and the Democrats. They've already shown him that. No, we don't like you, okay? You're too close to that Trump guy, right? You're too close to the middle, okay? We're far left now, okay? So RFK needs to understand that, well, if you're truly concerned about a Kamala Harris presidency, then yeah, your best bet would be to drop out and endorse Trump and to join forces. And I would not mind somebody like an RFK being a part of the cabinet, okay, or having some major influence. And I don't think that's too much to give up for his endorsement, considering how he is pulling more votes from Trump now than he was before when Biden was still in the race, right? When Biden was still in the race, I'd say, hey, well, I don't think that RFK is in much of a position to really be bargaining or negotiating with Trump, considering how it is very likely that Trump is going to beat Biden in a landslide, regardless of RFK being in the race. But now that's kind of changed. Now it's like, okay, well, it's better to have those votes than to not have those votes. And if RFK has to be a part of the mix, then, hey, maybe it makes sense because there's a lot of compatibility there, right? Especially when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to free speech, civil liberties, big pharma, things of that nature. Yeah, there's some compatibility between MAGA, America First, and RFK. So you can make it work, right? You can make it work. So, yeah, I definitely think that they should drop out and endorse Trump. I would love to see that happen, and it would be the best way for RFK to not only have some influence, but to also get revenge on the Democrat Party for stabbing them in the back, for rigging their primaries against them. Yeah, if he wants to get revenge on them, the ultimate revenge would be endorsing Trump and helping Trump win. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.